All right, my friends, welcome to another video lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be covering the basic editing interface in Premiere. So let's get started. We're going to jump into Premiere here. And what we're going to be doing is creating a new project. So we're going to head over to the New Project button here, click that, and Premiere comes up with this New Project window here, where we're going to configure several things. Number one, we're going to name our project. We are not going to leave it untitled. You will never do that in this class. So in order to name it, we're going to loosely mirror our project parent folder here, but we're going to do it just a little bit differently. So we're going to type template and the current year, but we're going to capitalize only the T in template, and then no space or underscore, and the current year, then an underscore, and your name. That's my name. You type your name. Another underscore. And then the date in a very specific 8-digit date format, starting with the year, then the month, and then the day. So in this case, 2026-07-05 for July 5th, 2026. Then we're going to move down to the location dropdown here and choose location. So we can tell Premiere where we want our project stored. And of course, we're going to head to the desktop and to our template 2026 parent folder here and into the project subfolder. That makes sense, right? We'll select that. And now we've told Premiere what to call this project and where to put it. There are also built-in template project structures that you can utilize here. We're not going to use those because we're going to create our own. And then it's very important that you check this skip import mode button here so that you don't have to deal with the import window, which in our case is really not necessary. Then we're going to head over to this settings gear here, click on that, and that launches our project settings window. And you can see there are several tabs here: general, color, scratch disks, and ingest settings. We're going to start out on general here. So you may or may not have choices for this first area: video rendering and playback. You can see mine's grayed out. It assumes that I'm going to use my GPU acceleration card, that is my graphics processing unit card, a helper card that enables Premiere to more smoothly play back video, effects, and other visual information that requires extra processing. If you have a GPU card, most likely it will automatically be selected. If not, you may see software only. If you happen to see that, it just means that Premiere is not currently using a GPU acceleration card. So if you have the ability to drop this choice down and choose a GPU acceleration card, I highly recommend that you do that. It just makes things easier on Premiere when it comes to playback. Video, display format we want to be timecode, and then under audio, the display format we want to be audio samples. And then we have action and title safe areas here. We're going to get into this later on in the course, but basically, these are areas that Premiere defines in which you should keep certain visual information inside: a title safe area and an action safe area. These values are industry standards, and again, we'll be discussing that more in depth later in the course. So we'll just leave that at the default for now. Moving on to the color tab, we are going to accept all of these defaults here. These are all set up to work with the widest range of video for most applications. So we'll just leave this stuff alone. Scratch disks. This is where Premiere by default will store certain types of media files. And what we want for the purposes of this class is to have everything set to same as project for all of these choices: captured and generated, video previews, audio previews, and so on. What this will do is cause Premiere to automatically and very easily organize all of these files within our parent folder structure right next to where our project is stored. Very convenient. Now, if you are in a professional environment, say maybe a shared storage environment, you might have different choices for these things. But for the purposes of this class, this is exactly what we want. Moving on to the Ingest Settings tab. This is not a function that we will use in this class, so we can just leave this alone. Back over to General, and we have now completed all of the project settings necessary. So we'll hit OK, and then hit the Create button here on the New Project window. And you can see Premiere launches our editing interface. So what I want you to understand is that this is a series of panels that we'll be working with in order to create our finished projects. And we can arrange and customize these panels in addition to choosing from different template setups that Premiere has. In order to do that, we'll head up here to the Workspaces button right here, click that, and you can see there are different choices here. We've got Starter, Essentials, Assembly, Learning, Effects, and so on. For the purposes of this class, I want you to use the basic editing interface right here. That will deliver this panel setup, which we're going to slightly customize. So not only can you choose from template setups in Premiere, but you can also customize your own editing interface. Pretty cool. Now you can also access various template setups by going to Window, to Workspaces, and then making choices from there. That's really the same thing as hitting the Workspaces button here. So let's check out the basic panels here. In the lower left, you have your project panel. This is where you will store all of your creative assets that you're going to work with in an organized fashion. In the upper left, we have the source panel. This is where you can preview creative assets that you might want to work with. You can play through audio and video clips, audition them, even set in and out points for using specific portions of them in your creative process. So the source panel is kind of your audition area. Then down here we have the timeline panel. This is where you will edit into place your creative assets to create a sequence, which is a series of clips one after another. And then up here we have the program panel. This is where you will actually view the sequences that you have created, so you can watch your creative effort come to life. So those are the four main panels. We have three additional panels as well. We have the Tools panel here, located between the Project and Timeline panels. And that has a series of often used tools that you'll be working with in Premiere. And then it also reveals the keyboard shortcuts associated with them. So if you roll over each tool, you can see in parentheses the keyboard shortcut associated with it. So we have the Selection tool here with a keyboard shortcut of V. Next, we have the Track Forward Select tool with a keyboard shortcut of A. The Ripple Edit tool with a keyboard shortcut of B. The Razor tool, keyboard shortcut C. The Slip tool, shortcut Y. The very often used Pen tool with a shortcut of P. The Rectangle tool, the Hand tool, the Title tool with a keyboard shortcut of T. And the Generative Extend tool, which we'll be talking about a little bit later in the course. I'll tell you right now, 95% of the time, you're going to be using the Selection tool. Very, very common. The most common tool you'll use. Over here on the right, we have our Audio Meters panel, where you can actually view the strength of the audio signal coming from clips in your timeline, in your source panel, and even in your project panel. And in the upper right here, we have the Properties panel. If you click on clips in your timeline, it will reveal certain properties about them, and you can manipulate them here as well. This is a fairly recent change in Premiere. Most of these things used to be contained in the Effect Controls panel as well, in addition to a lot of other aspects that you can control. So the Properties panel is really meant for quick access to some of the aspects that you can control related to clips, whereas the Effect Controls panel contains almost all of those and more. So because this is a fairly recent change to the basic editing interface in Premiere, one of the things that it does is take up some of the real estate associated with how you view the creative media that you're working with. Namely, it makes the program and source panels smaller to accommodate the room taken up by this panel, which when you're working on a smaller monitor, particularly a laptop interface, 13 to 15 inch perhaps, that's not the greatest thing. So what we're going to do is take advantage of one of the things that you can do in Premiere related to your workspace. You can customize it. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to take the properties panel and we're going to dock it over here with the other panels next to our source panel. We'll have just different tabs of panels that we can utilize. And that way we'll gain back the real estate taken up by this panel here. So we're going to grab the word properties, click and hold and drag this panel over until we get the ability to place it somewhere here. You can see I can do that all over the place, all right? I can place it on the left, right, bottom, the top strip here, even across the entire top of our interface. In our case, we want to place it with this thin purple line in the group of tabs. I'll let go, and there it is, docked. And you can see we've gained back the real estate associated with our top group of panels here. Now I can roll in between this group of panels and our program panel and change the relationship. Click, hold, and drag, and you can see I can customize the amount of space dedicated to each panel. Pretty cool. So let's say that didn't go so well. Let's say that when I drag the properties panel over, I didn't quite let go of it when I should have, and I put it somewhere else. Or maybe I really messed some stuff up here and now I've got this interface. Not what I want. So you can reset your interface in Premiere by going to the Workspace button here and down to Reset to Saved Layout. You can see editing is the active layout. I'm going to reset it now to its saved state. And you can see everything's back where it was. That's how you get yourself out of trouble. So again, let's relocate our properties panel here. And you can even change the order of the tabs here if you like. Pretty cool. I'm going to balance these two panels out. And now I'm going to save this as a new custom workspace. So again, I'm going to go to the Workspaces button and then down to Save as New Workspace. I'll click on that and I'm going to name it Luke_editing. And I'll give it a number, 01, in case I choose to have more than one. I'll hit OK. And now that appears as an additional choice in my list of workspaces. So if I'm in Learning, for example, and I want to go back to my custom basic editing interface, I'll click the Workspaces button down to Luke Editing 01 and boom, there it is. Now, additionally, there are keyboard shortcuts associated with the 4 big panels. Shift 1 will take you to the project panel. Shift 2 will take you to the source panel. Shift 3 will take you to the timeline panel, and Shift 4 will take you to the program panel. So it's not always necessary to move the mouse and click to activate. So these are the basic panels associated with just getting started editing in Premiere. Yes, there are other panels. We've got, as I mentioned before, effect controls. We've got the audio clip mixer, metadata, media browser. We've got the effects panel here, and so on. And we'll cover most of these panels later in the course. For now, we're going to stick with the basic editing interface in our core set of panels here. So there you have it, my friends. The basic editing interface in Premiere Pro, slightly customized to maximize our creative real estate. And that about does it for this video lesson, my friends. I'll see you again in the next one.